Summer is ending, September is just around the corner, so let's find out what's coming up to cheer us up with the top 5 most interesting games coming out in September 2020. First up, on September the 4th is quite the surprise actually, if you've not been paying attention. It's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake. Now, this will make you feel old. It's been 21 years since Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 appeared on the scene. And actually, this looks good. I know it's Activision, and I know that every single reboot that they've had or attempted in the last, I don't know, let's say 10 years has just been an unmitigated disaster. But this one looks good. There's been a demo out for people who've pre-ordered and, you know, special people on YouTube. And that has gone down extremely well. The physics looks fairly intact. It seems a little bit weightier than it was, but in a good way, not a bad way. Some new music in there, quite a lot of the old music. Yeah, it's just looking really good. Only question over it is, are there going to be microtransactions? And at the moment, all they're saying is there will be no microtransactions at launch, which probably means, yes, there will be microtransactions. But hey, it probably means it's a good time to get in early when it's unsullied by all of those things. So yeah, that's definitely one to look out for, and it's coming out soon on PS4, Xbox One, PC, and data miners have found details of Switch controls in the deep bowels of the coding, which probably means that Activision is hiding the fact that they're going to be releasing on Switch until we've all bought one of the other 3 versions, and then they release it on handheld, and then we go, oh, I really want that on Switch as well. That would be amazing. Like me, I do it every time. So yeah, be aware of that. On September the 8th, we have another title that comes to us from the deepest, darkest bowels of time. And this time it's Kingdoms of Amalur, which is quite astonishing. This game appeared in 2012 from a studio called 38 Studios, which was run by baseball legend Curt Schilling. And then it went on to bankrupt the entire state of Rhode Island. Story's too long and involved to go into detail right now, but it's well worth Googling, and there's plenty of videos out there. Highly recommend finding out about it because it's absolutely fascinating and not a little tragic. However, THQ Nordic bought this along with a proposed MMO that never got made because of the bankruptcy, and they're releasing a completely remastered, and it looks like, it's weird, partially remade Kingdoms of Amalur. It's called Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning, and it actually looks quite good. I mean, it doesn't look great to modern standards, but for an actual remaster, it looks wonderful. It's worth bearing in mind that this game actually managed to recruit R.A. Salvatore, famous fantasy author, Todd McFarlane, famous comic book artist, to work on it. So actually it's got quite the pedigree. Not only that, but there's going to be some new content. I think the combat's been reworked, and there's going to be an entirely new expansion added on to this next year. So this is one to be quite excited about, especially if you liked the original, which I did. I thought it was actually surprisingly good. I came to it late, having dismissed it, and it turned out to be a good game. So I think this is one to consider at the very least. So this one is September the 8th on PS4, Xbox One and PC. Again, I think this one is probably ideal for Switch, as a lot of these kind of games are. However, there has been no word of that at all. Whether THQ Nordic are pulling an Activision here, I don't know, but it's definitely worth a look. And next, on the 15th of September, we have Spelunky 2, which is long-awaited sequel to the much-loved first Spelunky, which is a roguelike platformer where you descend into the bowels of the earth and everything's procedurally generated and full of traps, and it was just a wonderful experience, full of character. Now, the now legendary developer Derek Yu has said that he's trying to emphasize the friendship element of all of these things with the fiendishly addictive roguelike with a renewed focus on multiplayer. The game will also include branching paths, collectible friends, which will appear back at a hub space in the game, which I think is a new feature. So fluid dynamics with lava and water, etc., which is going to have a great effect on how you can negotiate these levels. And I haven't seen anything about it yet, but one of the things I loved about the original was the daily challenge. I can't help but assume the daily challenges are going to return. That's Spelunky 2, out on September the 15th for PS4 and PC. Next, another one dedicated to making you feel old. This month is basically dedicated to making you feel old, I think. This is Mafia Definitive Edition, which was originally released, wait for it, back in 2002. It was originally developed by 2K Czech, which then got merged into Hangar 13, still owned by 2K, and 18 years later, they decided that it needs to be completely remade, and it's been remade in, I believe, the Mafia 3 engine, which has brought with it improved combat with a cover system. Motorbikes are new. The driving in the original was a lot of fun. I loved this back in the day when it came out, and I'll definitely be diving back in because I loved driving around the city in these old jalopies. It was great fun. It looks like the story remains intact, but it's been completely redone. It's much more polished. The acting seems much improved, and obviously the visuals do too. This is definitely one to look out for, especially if you did like the original. And if you've only ever played Mafia 2 or Mafia 3, I highly recommend going and grabbing this because honestly, I've always felt like the original Mafia was the best of the three of them anyway. And now that it's been completely remade like this, this is a must play. So that's out on September the 25th, Mafia Definitive Edition, PS4, Xbox One and PC. And finally, for our main games at the very end of September, September the 30th, we've got Baldur's Gate 3 by Larian Studios, who made the Divinity Original Sin games, which have been very well received over the last few years. Those games are huge, and this looks to be exactly the same, just absolutely massive with lots of choices, turn-based combat. It looks like it's got a much more user-friendly camera, which allows you to zoom right in on the action should you wish to, which is attracting me, to be honest. I quite like the idea of that. The fact that Larian Studios are doing the new Baldur's Gate pretty much cements them as the new BioWare, given that BioWare seems to have vacated their own seat. From what I can see, it's using a tweaked 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons rule set, which from what I've been reading is designed to make the combat a bit more biased towards the user so that it's more enjoyable. But aside from that, I think Dungeons & Dragons fans will get a kick out of this one as well. And that's Baldur's Gate 3, September the 30th on PC and Stadia. That's good, Phil. Well done. And before we end, some very quick bonus games. On September the 15th on Switch, we have Fight Crab because, well, it's crabs that fight. And then on September the 24th, remember I was saying games that make you feel old? Serious Sam is coming back. So Serious Sam 4 is out on the 24th for PC. Then a not so bonusy one, more of a warning, possibly a penalty. I'm quite torn about this one because I really want it to be good, but everything about it so far has been saying otherwise. And that's Marvel's Avengers, which looks to be a games as a service in the style of Destiny with Marvel superheroes, which sounds like it could be amazing, but it's just been one bad headline after another recently, with Spider-Man being locked to PlayStation as a DLC character later on, and it looks like every additional character that you want beyond the initial 6 will require you to buy a $10 battle pass. That's for every single one. So, yeah, I'm a massive Marvel fan. I'm sure there's lots of massive Marvel fans out there who are really tempted to buy this, and I may be unable to resist, but it's just a warning. I don't do this very often, but just warning, this could well be a stinker. And I think that's it. I think that's the top 5 this month, plus some bonuses and not such a bonus, possibly. If you like this, please do give it a like. If you would like to see more of this, please do consider subscribing. And as ever, stay happy, stay safe, and goodbye. Oh, and don't forget, we do have a podcast which you can find just by searching for Clod of War on pretty much any podcasting platform. I think we're on pretty much all of them now. So do give us a listen. consider finding us on Twitter at Clod of War, and also if you like watching things on Twitch, me and Dan tend to bumble around on a Monday night on Neo 2, which is always a laugh, so feel free to join us. And I tend to be on there at random times through the week as well, so have a look for Clod of War on Twitch, twitch.tv/Clod of War. And yeah, goodbye.